the new year. Welcome to the City of Athens Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board. In a normal situation, the outgoing chair would chair the beginning of tonight's meeting as the chair pro tem, as we saw yesterday in the transition in the presidency. But Mark's term is up, so we're kind of without. So Terry asked me to chair this beginning part, and after that, we'll go from there. She also asked me to change the order of the agenda. She felt appropriate that we better get a chairperson picked right away, and then let that individual go ahead and conduct the meeting. To date, I sent in a letter of interest to the mayor and Terry in that position. To date, no other letters have gone in. However, following protocol, we'll open the floor to any other nominations for chair of the position. It is a one-year position, as we decided back in the fall, and this individual, as Terry said, will need to work very, very closely with her. So I'll open the floor to any other nominations for chair for the 2021 calendar year.
So, Alan, are you saying that you are interested in this position?
Yes, I sent, after the last meeting, we were instructed to send, if we were interested, a letter to Terry and the mayor, which I did back in early January. And then she sent out another, what's the word I'm looking for, request for nominations last week, and she received none as of today at 2 o'clock. But again, she felt it best, even with those two things, to certainly open up the floor for further nominations, just in case someone had an interest at this point in time. So don't everybody jump at once.
Okay. Alan, I think you would be excellent, but I also think Shauna has done a great deal of work here on this committee. And Travis is great too, but I think Shauna and Alan have been the most active.
Okay, so I guess the thing we need to ask, Shauna, if you're interested in it, enter your name into nomination too, or if you're not, the opportunity to respectfully decline.
I appreciate the nomination there, Beth, but I'm going to respectfully decline because I'm working on that Friends of, and once I get that going, then, you know, I have to rethink my position here on the board. So I don't want to interfere. I think Alan would be a wonderful chair and support his in the position.
Okay, thank you. And those sound like good reasons. And yeah, I agree. I think Alan would be excellent.
Okay, any other, this is what Mark said, he got it by default. Any other nominations? All right, we have a motion that nominations be closed, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing nominations signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Okay, well, Daniel, you just got elected chair of the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Board.
Yeah.
Not really.
Not really. Okay, so I guess to make it official, I guess we have to vote. I'm the only candidate, but I guess we should still vote. All those favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thanks a lot, Shauna. I appreciate you. I was ready to get a glass of water here and step back. Okay, I'm going to flip up the agenda a little bit because, as Beth mentioned early on, we do have 2 new members. And what I would like to do is something that 1, 2, 3, 4 of us have already done, and that is introduce ourselves and tell a little bit about our background. Certainly not War and Peace or Gone with the Wind. Cliff Notes version would probably be better. So just to give you an idea, I'll go ahead and start it off, and then we'll play Hollywood Squares and go around the room here. My name is Alan Swank. I've been in Athens since 1979. Like many of you, came here for 1 year of graduate school and one turned 42. Lived over here on the Far East Side since 1983. In fact, at one time lived right across the street from Mr. Lavelle there. Been involved in all aspects of arts, parks, and recreation for a long time. Joined my first Joined my first organized sports team at the ripe old age of 7. And 3 years later, had my first leading role in a musical, Johnny Appleseed, at the ripe old age of 10. Played organized sports up to the time I turned 42, and then unfortunately a broken leg and 7 months in a cast put an end to that. But that's the nice part about the arts. You can always go sit in the audience and watch, whether it's dance or a choir or an orchestra or a Broadway play. And that's what Terry and I, my wife and I, missed the most about COVID. The last week before the shutdown, we actually saw 3 concerts, and we haven't seen one since live, and we can't wait for the day to have that. To open places like Arts West again full-time, Fur Peace Ranch full-time, the Performing Arts, and I'm sure Travis would probably second, third, and fourth all of those, because this has been trying for those of us who sit in the audience, but I'm sure it's been particularly trying for those on the performance and teaching end. So that's me. So on my screen, Shauna, you were in the square. It used to be occupied by Paul Lind on the old Hollywood Square show. So go ahead if you would, please.
All right. I'm Shauna Schweitzer. Like Alan said, I'm a transplant here as well. I've been here since '92. Came here for college and ended up loving it and never leaving. So, see, we've got 3 boys here in town. We're raising the future Bobcats. I work at OU. My husband and I both work at OU. I'm a programmer there. I got on the board about a year and a half ago, came in through the soccer channels. Was a soccer parent, then a coach, and then eventually a player. And then pretty much we live and breathe soccer for a long time around here. And then my husband and boys have gotten into trail running recently too. So came in through that avenue and starting to get out there and walk the trails. So that's, I guess, Cliff Notes version of why I'm here, and welcome. It was nice to have new members.
Good deal. Good deal. Nice to see you at the beginning of this new year. Our next person is a new board member, and I'm going to address you as Catherine Ann Jordan. If that's not correct, please correct me, or if there's something else, that's fine. But Catherine Ann, welcome, and give me some kindness to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I am Catherine Ann. It's a double name, or Cat, if you prefer. But I grew up in North Carolina, and let's see, I used to work for the North Carolina Outward Bound School, so my outdoor recreation side is pretty strong. And I'm a visiting assistant professor at Ohio University, so I definitely, since I can remember, I've been involved in organized sports. I've been using every single free space that's available to the public to be outside. I'm a trail runner. I'm a biker. I'm a bike path walker, runner. I have 2 kids, so we're out there a lot. They're 6 and 3. We're out there somewhat now, I guess, not as much, but let's see. I'm trying to think of quick and I guess that was quick and dirty of it. I'm in the recreation management program at Ohio University, so I think that's kind of where I kind of got pulled into this this opportunity.
Good deal. Whereabouts in North Carolina?
Wilkesboro. Do you know Merle Fest?
Yeah.
Some people know Merle Fest, and I'm like, that's where I grew up.
Yeah, well, you just go down, 77 to, was it 441 takes you over there?
Yeah. It's about an hour south of the Virginia border, but it's the northwest part of North Carolina.
Where'd you go to school? App State?
I did, yeah. Okay, yeah. So I went to App State for my undergrad, and then I worked for North Carolina Outward Bound School, and that was in North Carolina mountains, and then in Florida. They have a base in Florida as well. And then I went to UGA for my master's, and then Clemson for my PhD. And then I did a short year at IU, and then I came here. I fell in love for the job interview here. I came here, and I was like, this is the best place ever. I really hope they offer me a job. And they did, and it's been awesome. We love it here.
A good deal. If you stay around long enough to when your kids are in high school, you can bring that Georgia Bulldog stuff back out, because that's our local high school mascot.
I know, I've seen that.
All right, another new board member here from the Far East Side, Greg Lavelle. Greg, if you would please.
Yes, I'm Greg Lavelle. I moved to Athens in 1968 and started a leather shop back then, and have been here ever since. Fell in love with the town and remain here. I've been on many boards since then. I've been on the Athens Dairy Barn board to kind of get an idea of the arts in the area. I've been on the Athens Zoning Board to get my toes dipped in the political pool. And now, being a huge recreational user, I'm proud to be a member of the rec board now. So I'm looking forward to see what goes on in this area of town.
I know, Greg, but maybe you can share with us what your favorite sports are, at least the ones you're really good at.
Well, I won a gold medal at the National Pickleball Championships in Florida last year. That's probably the highlight of my pickleball career. And up until then, I've taught tennis in the area for 35 years. So tennis was obviously my first love until my joint started saying you need to find a second love.
I think
pickleball's now that second love. So
I think it would be very
I
good.
bike and hike and kayak and do all kinds of things.
I agree. I think it'll be really nice to have pickleball represented on this board.
Yes, becoming very, very popular. It's probably still the fastest growing sport in the United States, if not the world.
And the nice part
So
is,
I also am the Southern District ambassador for the U.S. Pickleball Association. I've been doing that for the past 2 years. So I have the southern counties in the state of Ohio.
very good. One thing about pickleball is it's one of those sports that is very inclusive. It does not cost a lot of money to participate. Just about anybody can. In fact, Greg has been generous enough for those of us who tried pickleball before we pulled various muscles to have a whole bag full of paddles. So all we had to do was show up at City Rec and he showed us how to play. But welcome aboard, both Greg and Catherine Ann. We are really, really glad to have you, not only for your expertise, but your interest, and also gives us a full complement on the board now.
Thank you.
Travis, did you get that kid to enroll?
Oh, yeah, I did. So, yeah, that was kind of late for some recruiting activities, but yeah, that's how we do it now. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Travis Gatling. Welcome to our new board members. I look forward to working with you. I'm the director of the School of Dance at Ohio University in the College of Fine Arts. I'm originally from Chesapeake, Virginia, and I'm saying that because I really miss seafood right now. Like many, I came here, I interviewed for a job, got the job in '99. Thought I'd be here for maybe 3 to 5 years, fell in love with the place, and here I am still here. So I love this community. I love what it has to offer. I love the environment and the beauty of the place. So like Alan and so many other board members, I'm an arts advocate. It's been very different for us this year, but we remain creative and find ways to produce art. One of the highlights last semester was our seniors, for their senior project, they did a drive-in dance concert, so in a parking lot. It was projected on the screen, so we pulled in like we were going to the movie theater, to a drive-in movie theater, and they presented their work that way. So, and that idea is flourishing across campus now. So, so I'm excited to meet you and to work with you.
What I was kidding Travis about at our last meeting, he was a little bit late, a little bit of delayed. That's a better word. A little bit delayed in joining us. But what he was doing was a virtual interview for a prospective student, and glad to hear he just closed the deal on it. We can use all the good students we can possibly get here in Athens and Ohio University. Last but not least of the board members, Daniel Brown.
All right. Hello. I'm a townie. So I was born in Athens, and Well, let's see. I played ball down at the West State Street ball fields. Back when they were just the West State Street ball fields, there was nothing special, no fences, anything. I was on Larry's Doghouse for 2 years, and that was the best because we used to get footlongs after each game. That was like 3rd and 4th grade. So I went to Athens High School, played sports, soccer, football, baseball, some basketball. And after high school, I ended up going to Ohio University, and I didn't really look anywhere. But after undergrad, I couldn't wait. I always had a burning desire to get out of Athens, like bad. And I finally got out after undergrad. I was a wildlife biology major. And so one of the requirements is you had to do about 3 years of internships after in order to be a professional. So I spent about 3 years as an intern, started out in Hawaii on the Big Island. I worked for MAPS out in Oregon, Washington, Puerto Rico. I was in Athens, Georgia, working for UGA. That was my highest paying job. I was on a West Nile virus study in 2003. So that was kind of at the height or shortly after West Nile, and drawing blood from jugular veins of birds and driving a 1990 Suburban all over Georgia. So I know Georgia really well. Highest paying job, not my favorite. And that's kind of like what I found out. And with biology, so I realized if I was going to move up, I was going to move out of the field, and that's what I really liked. So, long story short, I came back to Athens for a master's in ecology and evolutionary biology, and that was in January 2005. And I realized all the cool places I'd seen, I wanted to live here. So now I'm here. And actually, in between then and now, I worked in Hawaii for 3 years as a professional wildlife biologist. I worked at, coming back to Athens, I taught some, worked at Athens Bicycle. And so Gregory, I know you from coming in to the bike shop, and you did a really good job at the library, keeping their bikes in line. We definitely noticed when you were gone. So, but yeah, anyway, I got a background in wildlife, bicycles, so sports. What I really have taken an interest in with this recently is the lands, though. So I've been working a lot in Camp Rotan, just clearing invasives, clearing trail, making it nice. So that's that. I'm unemployed now. There's
But
that.
you have some lovely children. You're
I do.
keeping in line.
That's my primary job is I have twin daughters. They're going to be 7. And, to take the positive out of this whole situation, it's coming up on a year almost. I've spent a lot of time with them, and time slips away fast. So I'm soaking it up, and, I'm a little nervous about the future and what I'm going to do, but right now it's good. So sorry it was long, but that's me in a nutshell.
Not any chance of a bicycle festival uptown this summer, or is it too early to tell?
I'm going to say it's going to be hard to see it happen this year. It's still kind of early, but the whole thing about that is the idea is to bring as many people as we could into Athens, get them to enjoy Athens. For the bicyclists, it's fun, but the way I liked it was because I was a spectator when I was a kid. And, if it doesn't come back this year, took a 20-year break anyway. So, it'll come back. I don't know when.
Okay.
We've got at least as far as funding, a pretty good start. Just because being involved in other bike races, you want to try to have enough money so if you do have a bad year, you can continue it on. Because can't make money on a bike race, or it's hard. I mean, just look at the Tour of California. That's done now. It's for the love and just for the event. So, yeah, I would say it'll be back at some point.
Okay, I hope
Don't know
so.
when.
Yeah, that was a great event. Certainly appreciated your leadership in that. And you did lead that race for about what, 7 laps?
Yeah, I got 2 preems and got 3rd place. I mean, I was pretty exhausted. I didn't sleep much the night before, so, and it's like the nerves. But it was that was part of. I always wanted to race on the streets up there, and it was super fun. If you're in good shape, it's a fun race. It's not if you're not in good shape.
All right, very good. Well, last but not least, we have with our board, we have a liaison from City Council, and Beth's responsibilities involve bringing information that is pertinent to Arts, Parks, and Recreation to us, and in turn, taking information from our meetings back to share with City Council. So Beth, go ahead if you would, please.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Well, again, welcome to Catherine Ann and Gregory. It's really nice to have you joining. And you both sound excellent for this. Oh my gosh, a national authority on pickleball and a woman with a PhD in outdoor recreation. Like, I think you'll do. Yeah, this is good. Well, I'm here as a representative of City Council, but this was the city committee that I chose when given about 6 different choices, because I care about both of the areas of focus of this committee. I, kind of similar to Alan, I started playing basketball because I'm from Indiana originally, and softball when I was 6, and kind of stayed with that for a long time. And then in junior high and high school, I added volleyball and track. So I was a 4-sport athlete for a while, but I was also involved in drama. I really liked being in plays and in musicals in junior high and high school. And I like the arts now very much. I like dance, but I think I lean more toward music and drama as a rule. Though I don't know if any of you saw the Martin Luther King celebration that was put on at OU. There was a woman that did an amazing dance as part of that. She was tremendous. If I could dance like that, I would be a dancer. But so I like both of those things. Nowadays, I'm not involved in any organized sports, but I do a lot of walking. I walk. If it's an option, I always walk instead of driving. I go hiking and I do some bike riding, not like Daniel, not in a competitive, really ultra fit, awesome kind of way, but I like to mosey along on my bike on the bike path mainly. Yeah, I like sports. I'm still a passionate basketball fan, and I like the arts as well.
Well, good deal, Beth. We appreciate you being our liaison to City Council. I think communication is very, very important. And even in a small city like this, things can get lost if we're not talking with each other.
Well, thank you. And if I might make one comment along those lines, Daniel probably knows this, but even though we on City Council were well aware that nobody knows what's happening with the virus, right? Or when things can get back to normal, when it will be safe to hold events again. But we did go ahead this year and approve the things we need to approve to make those events happen: the street closures, the noise ordinance waivers, the vendor permits. We approved that for the BRIC criterion, as well as for kind of the whole calendar of events that happen in Athens in the spring, summer, and fall, and even the Christmas tree lighting, even all the way through December, with the big contingency that whether or not those actually happen this year will depend on what's going on with the public health situation. But we figured by doing this, we're kind of holding the places for those events, so that if by 2022 things are safe and hopefully back to normal, then hopefully if the people still want to do those events, they can just slide right back into those reserved dates, and they won't lose out that way.
Good.
So it's on the books for June, but you know, if things aren't safe by then, we will completely understand if you decide not to have it.
All right. Well, good. Thank you. Appreciate that information, Beth. We don't do this at every meeting, but this is the first one of the year. We have 2 new board members, and thought it would be appropriate for those of us who had been on the board a while, maybe to share some things we had not in the past, and certainly give us an opportunity to meet the new board members, find out some things about them, and share some things about ourselves. So welcome aboard, everybody. Appreciate you being here this evening. First order of business is the approval of minutes. Those were sent out earlier this week. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Shauna, is there a second? Show a hand. There we go. Travis, any additions or corrections we need to talk about? All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, signify by saying aye. Opposed? All righty. And speaking of minutes, you're probably wondering, since we're all been sitting here looking at the camera, who is taking minutes? Little procedural explanation. The way this works is following this meeting, not tonight, but in the next few days, Terry's administrative assistant, Caitlin, reviews the video and is then able to very, very, very accurately transcribe these minutes. And I think if you've taken the time to look at them, no matter and how much detail, she is spot on. And if she doesn't capture something, she'll go back and watch the video again. So certainly appreciate her efforts in that. But that's one way that we do that. I know we've all served on committees before where someone at the table was asked to do the minutes. My personal philosophy is it makes it very difficult for that individual to be an active participant, to hear, to chime in and all that. So having Caitlin do this as a third party works out very, very, very well. Old business, we have 4 items on the agenda if you're following along. The first is Arts, Parks, and Recreation, APR Board Responsibilities and Assessment. As you all saw in the first 10 days of this month, we received an email from Mark Ferguson about that, the updated, compiled responsibilities and assessment. And Terry wanted me to share with you tonight that she has not had the opportunity to digest that, but plans to be able to do that so that we can have an active discussion about that at our very next meeting, so we can get that wrapped up. Also, that will give us an opportunity to make sure we get that compilation of responsibilities and that assessment to both Catherine, Ann, and Greg so that they can review it too and be active participants in that discussion at the February meeting. That's what Terry asked me to share with you. Is there anything that anyone needs to add in regards to that topic? Okay. Second item on the agenda, Budget Committee. I contacted the law director, Lisa Eliason, to find out what we needed to do, or if we could even have a subcommittee of this board. And she was kind enough to get back with me and said, absolutely. It could be one of us. It could be all of us. It could be one of us and multiple people from the community, as long as we do the following things. And I'll go slow with this because legally we need to follow this if we're going to have a budget committee. Number one, the meetings must be open to the public. They must be open to the public. Really, that would be number 2. Number 1 is they must be advertised. They must be advertised. Secondly, they must be open to the public, which means at this point in time, we would need to do them via Zoom, but obviously we're getting to be old hat at that. Number 3, minutes must be taken of those meetings. We need to do all those things. And if we do that, then we are fine. And if we are to do a budget committee, or any committee for that matter, we can determine whether it's going to be an ad hoc committee, in other words, a committee put together for a single purpose, or a standing committee, a committee that will continue to exist over time and deal with the various issues related to the charge of that committee. So if we do all those things, we can have a committee. So what I'm proposing this evening for the board to consider and perhaps take action on is the formation of a budget committee with the initial purpose of working with Terry and or her designee from the department to review the fees and fee structures with all of our programs, primarily this first year, the pool and membership at Arts West. Other things that could be included in that would be fees for participation in youth sports and any MOUs, memorandums of understanding that we might enter into, such as with Sandlot or another organization that might be using our facilities. I think this is a golden opportunity, a great time to do this. We haven't done this in years. And just to give you an idea, one thing I discovered in reviewing the membership brochure for Arts West, which I'm sure we're all chomping at the bit to get that thing fully open and fully functional, is that many people were receiving more in benefits than the cost of their membership. And in these tough economic times, that's going to be tough to continue to do. So I throw that out for your consideration. One, if we did this, do we have anybody who would be interested? If we don't have anybody that was interested, do you have any recommendations of people that might be interested that we could tap into here in the community? So thoughts on forming a budget committee? And nobody has to open their wallet since we're talking about money, so don't worry.
Greg, if you're trying to talk, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, Greg, you're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I read a couple little blurbs about that in my emails, and thinking that yes, we're going to have to rethink all those fees, and not that we're going to be able to make up for lack of seasonal swim fees that we didn't get this year and whatnot. But yeah, I would like to know what fees people have paid in the past, and certainly they'll probably be readjusted, and hopefully fairly so. So I would be interested in seeing those, participating in those at some capacity. That's me.
One thing you brought up there, Greg, I would think, and I'm going to go so far as to say I would hope that we would all agree with, is however we structure fees, that we keep in mind the area in which we live, the people that we are supposed to serve, so that we are accessible to all, regardless of socioeconomic condition, particularly in these times of COVID, but certainly going forward when things hopefully return to normal. So yeah, I would agree with you on that they need to be fair. They need to definitely be fair. But a couple of things I pointed out last time, if you have a family membership, my daughter has a family membership, and it's my daughter's son-in-law and 3 granddaughters who live across the street over here. Once they've gone to the pool in the summertime 7 times, every subsequent visit is already paid for. And I'm not saying that's too high or too low, but to me, that's a great deal for having, especially I managed a pool one summer, and anybody that's been in the pool business will tell you that pools are the cheapest form of childcare available to families in America today. The cars pull up, the kids get out, and 4 to 6 hours later, and this isn't in all cases, but in some cases, the car comes back and takes the kids away. And they're able to do that in many cases for the entire summer for $150. That's pretty inexpensive childcare. Any other thoughts, comments on the formation of a budget committee? Yes, Beth?
Would you be interested in entertaining thoughts on the fees, or not in this meeting?
I would think we would want to do several things. One, I think we would want to review our own fees. I think we would want to do some research as to comparable facilities in the Appalachian geographic area. And of course, we also would need to look at our expenses.
I will email you one idea I have.
I think that'd be great. Yeah, I think at this point in time, although I'm going to make a amendment to the suggestion in a moment, I think it might be a little bit premature to be talking about specific dollar amounts without that other information. Well, Brandon, glad you could join us, sir. Hopefully your 2-hour training, you're not holding your eyes open with toothpicks.
I'm here. I got the Red Bull, so
okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Now I think about it, I'm looking at these screens. There are 3 of us that over here from the Far East Side. We are well represented. Well represented.
Right.
Any other comments on the formation of a budget committee, a budget subcommittee of Arts, Parks, and Recreation?
I just want to reemphasize what's already been said because I think it's so important. I mean, as far as fees, fairness, accessibility, and equity, I think that is so key and something that we really need to consider in when we talk about budget as it relates to that.
I think one of the things that I keep thinking of is, and that's just since I don't have the big picture of kind of what we're charged with for the year, but I'm wondering or hesitating on coming up with a suggestion about whether or not to have a subcommittee, depending on what other charges we have. So, you know, in one frame of mind, I'm like, oh, well, this is something that we could do as a, you know, one of our charges. But if there are other things, then it would make sense to have kind of like one of us lead a subcommittee and, you know, specific groups focusing on certain tasks. But I just don't know what else we are charged with. So.
You know, Catherine Ann, that is a great point. And who's been on the board the longest, Travis or Brandon or Daniel? Travis, or excuse me, Brandon?
That's me.
Yeah. Do you recall, and I've only been on the board almost 3 years, do you recall this board ever having any kind of committees other than, you know, you and Sean are working on the possibility of a friends of, but other than that, have you remember ever having any committees?
No, I think the only things that I'm aware that were done outside were, you know, the Women in Sports Day, you know, that you were on, Alan, and then, the Friends of Arts West, but there haven't been any other committees for specific tasks. So, yeah, as long as I've been on here. So, and I
thought that was the case. So to Catherine Ann's point, this is kind of, in my mind, somewhat of a trial balloon, so to speak, a starting point. And as Terry will share with us in the not too distant future, cost recovery is a huge issue for us. One, caused by the pandemic, but two, Athens is not growing in population. And with that lack of growth, we're not getting the income tax revenue that a growing community would be getting. To your point also, we will talk about priorities when we get down to the master plan, which is 2 items down here. So it may be a situation, if we're talking about committees and assignments and things of that nature, where would something like the budget committee fall in that list of priorities? We have a pool season coming up. We have an MOU we're going to be entering into with Sandlot. We have ongoing programs. We're going to reopen Arts West full bore sometime. It just seemed in my mind that budget and money was probably, if not at the top, near the top of that priority list.
Alan, who controls the budget now and makes those decisions?
Well, let me say this. We are an advisory committee. We are not a policy-making committee. We are charged to do a variety of things relative to offering advice to the director. And I see Terry has now joined us. So, Greg, if you'd restate that question, I'm going to defer to Terry and let her answer that.
Okay, my question was, Terry, that who's currently in charge of overseeing the budget and setting the fees?
So first I want to say it's great to see 2 new faces, Catherine Ann and Greg. Welcome. I'm sorry I was late. As far as who sets the budget, I make recommendations and it's based on previous year projections, any new programs we intend to offer. In the past, capital improvement projects that we have slated, and ultimately the auditor and city administration, they make the final decisions on that. As a new director 3 years ago, I came in on the front end of the pool build. So as you can imagine, operationally, that was the priority. That first year was getting the facility built and operational. So there was heavy focus on aquatics. Making the recommendations going into that second year, pretty much went off of, the amount of revenue we brought in, what the projections were the prior year. And we've tweaked it each year accordingly. We've got 4 separate fund lines. And at some point, I'd like to invite either the deputy auditor or the auditor in to explain the budget to the board, because she can explain that better than I can, and the mix, so to speak. But we have 271 fund line, which is the community center, and that's everything within the community center. We've got another fund line, 270, that is aquatics, Arts West, and parks. We've got a levy that has sunsetted, that's 272, and that levy money was appropriated for all things community center. And we have probably a balance of close to 350,000 in that old levy money, but we need a new roof on the community center. So we've held up on making any other improvements. We have painted the facility, and there's a number of improvements that we've made. 273 is new levy money. I've been conservative in any spending in that line item over the course of the last 3 years, feeling like we could do what we need to do as far as our facilities, as far as our programming and services with the money we had appropriated. Moving forward, it's my plan to get the master plan off the ground this coming year. That's my priority, and I would like to have the board's blessing on that, because I think it will fully engage the board through the course of this next year. With that said, that master plan will be our roadmap for the next 5 years as far as programming and services, but more importantly, park improvements and big projects. We have a number of big capital projects that need to be prioritized, from tennis courts to, and I say that speaking to you, Greg, from tennis courts to playgrounds that need to be replaced. And I think we're at a time, in this COVID era, so to speak, that we have a real opportunity to engage the community in that process, and in that conversation with town hall meetings, with our advisory board, and having the advisory board advise based on what comes back from the consultant to get that roadmap in place. We haven't had that as far as a 5-year capital spend out plan for 273. So I'm circling back to that budget line again. But yeah, I probably answered that with a little more than was needed. But again, I hope to have Kathy Heck or Leanna Woods join us in this first quarter to explain the budget.
Terry, I'm not sure when you came in. You were in the same meeting with Brandon, right? Yeah.
Yes, and we just need a minute to breathe.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. No, I just want everybody to know that you actually were in another meeting and not out playing tennis or rehabbing that new knee. But I'm not sure when you came in. But what we were
Right.
engaged in is discussion of the formation of a budget committee, and there seems to be some sentiment for doing that. There also, Catherine, and correct me if I'm wrong, expressed an interest, or not an interest, a very good comment, I thought, as to where this fell budget committee in terms of priorities, and if we're having any other committees. and Brandon brought us up to speed, other than the status of the Friends of Arts West committee, we really haven't had any of these type of committees to delve into these things. I guess I'd ask the question, Terry, if we were to form a budget committee and come up with recommendations for two things in particular: fees for the pool, which are coming up, and memberships to, well, I guess three things: memberships to Arts West and the associated benefits. If we were to do that and deem that appropriate, when would that final recommendation need to be made for this year? Or is it too late already?
For the 2021 budget, it's too late already. And I can tell you that the budget was just recently released, the expense side of it, and not formally, it's in the system, I'll say. But I've had an opportunity to review it. Caitlin and I have reviewed it, and the funding that's in place is pretty much what I recommended going into this year. I didn't make too many tweaks or changes. I try to anticipate by looking at what we did last year, where we can maybe move some money around or reduce a line item, or where I need to increase line items. But this year's going to be unique. I can tell you that I've been preparing reports for each fund line, 271, starting with that, and 270, projecting, what our revenue will look like and to what extent that's going to need to be subsidized, because we're still in COVID. Our rentals have just not existed. And that's a big part of the 271 budget. Programming. I'm hopeful that we can offer summer camp. We intend to open the pool, but I can say April's going to be telling as far as the income tax, and I'm holding my breath a little bit as far as what that looks like, because what's in the budget may not be real money. And that's where we're at. As far as looking at a budget committee, where I think if we put a committee together from the advisory board, that would be taking a deep dive into looking at our fees across the board and what those look like, what programs that we want to invest money in, what programs we want to divest in, and then what that cost recovery looks like.
Well, that's
what costs we're passing on.
Terry, that's what we were talking about. We were talking about the fee side of it, the revenue side. We're fully aware that the expense side it was set already, but we're talking about the fee side. So I guess I'll rephrase the question: if we are looking at fees for 2021, the pool, Arts West benefits, anything else, when would that need to be completed by? The fee side of it.
I think as far as looking at cost recovery, I think we can start that now. And I have already started some of that with staff. That's something we felt like we could do internally, looking at fee structure and the cost recovery for programs and services. That can start this first quarter.
So if we started now, think we could have it done? Think we could have it done by the April meeting to make a recommendation? That's 3 months.
There'll be some work I guess, and how I'd look at it is have staff do the internal work, as far as looking at the programs and services, not just the fee structure, but programs and services that we want to continue to put resources towards, and those programs and services that maybe someone else in the community is doing, that so we don't duplicate. And but yeah, I mean, it's possible to do it by April.
Okay.
I think that's 6 months. That's 6 months. Well, no, that's 4 months.
Yeah, see, Greg and I have both expressed. Greg and I have both expressed an interest in being involved in this, and I'm not trying to shut anybody else out. We'll certainly take more people, but it seems to me with the pool season coming up, and your last comment about April will be telling in terms of tax revenue. I don't want to get the cart before the horse, but I'm not sure we can open that pool with the same fee structure we've had in the past. And we won't know that till April. That's why I said,
that's a good point, Alan. I'm not sure we can do anything without looking critically at our fees and what we're what we're offering and for what. And there's been that need. We've had these conversations, but I mean, this is just different. We've got to look at this as a business, and for the fees that here's the other thing, and I know others on the board have heard me say this. I'm mindful that we're not pricing out anyone. So if we're increasing our fees, we've got to figure out a way to subsidize so we're not excluding anyone. That's just the nature of our business. And so as we go through that budget committee or that cost recovery exercise, that's a piece of it that we need to have in place, and definitely consider that social equity piece. And that we can offer services and not price out anyone.
Okay,
but yes, to your point, we need to.
Okay, so with that said, I would like to make the following motion that as a board, we motion that we form a budget committee made up of any and all board members who would choose to be a part of it, and the director, Terry Moore, and any staff she deem appropriate, with the charge of a preliminary report delivered to this board at the April board meeting. And I would make that motion. Is there a second?
Hey, Alan, with that, would it be possible to get like the scope of that? So it doesn't start as one thing and become another. And I know inevitably that will be something, but like,
yeah, right.
I like the idea, but like, I've heard fee structure, then it was like across the board, I had her pool. And so I want to make sure I understand the full thing. So, cause you guys are talking about the cost recovery for the pool mostly, but also other programs and stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah. The fee structure for, and I think we could defer to the, to Terry as to the scope of that. Because I'm sure there are some programs that need to be looked at right away, and others that could be moved down the road. If the pool was opening next December as opposed to this May, we could move that down the road. But the pool's opening in May, end of May. So yeah, the scope would be, I would say, determined by the director and her guidance on that.
I'll second that. Yeah, I just wanted to clear that up.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on this?
I would just recommend or suggest that it may be necessary to have meetings outside of our regular board meetings.
Oh, absolutely.
That committee meets. That can. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely, because it would get into much greater detail than we could here. And, we all have different interests, as we expressed on our opening bio. And some of us may be numbers and budget people, some of us may be program people. I think we really need to utilize the strengths and interests of this board, because it is a strong board with varied interest, and that's a good thing. Any other discussion on this motion and second? If not, all those in favor of forming this budget committee to report at our April meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, good deal. And again, Caitlin watches this video, and she'll be able to take our last 10 minutes of conversation and condense it down into very readable, concise minutes. Next item on the agenda, status of Friends of Arts.
Alan,
Yes, ma'am.
can I ask when you'd like to see that scope?
The report of the scope.
I'm going to be you'd asked me to identify
Yeah.
the scope of what the budget committee.
Right.
and-
Today is the what, 21st?
This is 2121.
Yeah, that's right. This is what they call it, a palindrome or something like that. 21 to, so that we could give a brief report to the board at the February board meeting. Could we get the general outline in a couple weeks?
Sure.
Scope would simply.
That's doable. And I just want to remind.
Yeah, that'd be great. Particularly since we don't have the women in sports thing this
Okay.
year to have to plan. Sadly. Okay, Shauna and Brandon, if you could, a quick update, if there is one, on the status of Friends of APR.
Okay, Terry and I spoke briefly this week. I'm going to get back on that, make that my top priority to get that going. I've got some feelers out from information, and I'm going to create an account and get the paperwork started. Hopefully either late this week or probably early next week at this point. And then we're going to get that going. So hopefully we'll have something more to report in February, but excited. And I think it's time. We've kind of put it off, thinking that things are kind of weird with COVID, and we don't know how it's going to go, and don't want to appear, I don't know, insensitive or anything, but I think it's time, and we're going to get back on it and give it a go. So Brandon, or Terry, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, that really.
Okay, good. One thing
I'll just add that. I feel like it's a priority. Sean and I shared that. I wanted to just get a sense of one, talk about it being on the agenda, but also let her know that I was committed to getting that done in the next couple months. And I will work on getting the money to pay the registration and then the licensing fee. So
good.
I'm committed to it and feel like it's really important that we get it done.
And I think Brandon may have mentioned this, that it's not all that expensive and difficult per se, more time consuming, but if there is any legal advice that needs to be given, hopefully we can count on Law Director Eliason to provide that. And if not, because of any kind of conflict between an outside organization and the city, I know of two people in the business of law here in town that would probably offer their services for that, so we don't incur additional expense. So maybe we can try Lisa first, and then if that doesn't work, we can, somebody in the community. All right, Terry, that brings us to your big topic, the Master Plan 2021 and priorities.
So that is the number one priority for me moving into 2021. We were asked not to submit any capital projects. That is a capital project. In review of the budget, that money is in the budget. I have been in conversation with the director from Upper Arlington. Had the opportunity to hear her present on her master plan a little over a year ago, and her experience and some of the things that she shared in that presentation were similar to what my experience has been coming in as a new director, year 3, needing that roadmap, meeting that master plan. So with that said, and the money being in place, and I have city administration support, I see that as something that the advisory board would need to be fully engaged in. There would be town hall meetings. Again, there's an opportunity to host community forums, whether it be virtual or in person at some point, to get community input and have them engaged and making recommendations and decisions as far as what those priorities are in our capital projects moving forward, which includes the spending of the new levy money. We need, like I said, there's quite a few things on the list, from playground improvements to restrooms to repair of the skate park to resolving, our issues with the soccer fields to tennis courts. So this year moving forward, I'd like that that is my number one priority, with the board support, but also like the board to support that.
Terry, having watched the Athens master plan and realizing the amount of time it took, and based on the fact that you said the money is in the budget, how quickly could, and you're talking about outside consultant in this case, how quickly could we engage the services of said consultant, and would the engagement of a consultant require an interview and bid process?
So, yes. If my thought is to get the request for proposal out for bid this first quarter. Let me back up. You mentioned the city's master plan or comprehensive plan. I've consulted with Paul Logue, Andy Stone before he left about whether this could be done in-house. It was done. We had a master plan that was done in-house. That was included in some of Paul's work. Paul, as a city planner, he advised going out to bid for it. So using an outside consultant for it. Most agencies, arts, parks, and recreation agencies, they do outsource this sort of thing. And there's a few consultants that I would prefer to use, but it does have to go out to bid. So I say we get that out this first quarter and get the consultant on board, and then we move through it. I know the city of Upper Arlington, it took them about a year. They made some changes during the course of it, so that may have prolonged it a bit, but it's going to take a good 8 months to a year.
Catherine Ann, in your educational training and professional experience, have you ever dealt with anything like this? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to see what resources we may have represented on this screen.
I was trying to use my space bar and it wasn't working for some reason. In a textbook kind of way, yes. but not in a tangible, real life experience. No.
Well, that's a lot different than most of us because we don't even own the textbook. So
Okay.
you're way ahead of us in that regard. And again, I did not mean to put you on the spot, but
that's fine.
as Terry mentioned, as a board, we're going to need to be engaged in this. And I'm just trying to get an idea of who might, who might be in a position to offer some expertise, some experience, some guidance, because Terry and the consultant are going to need that kind of input. So anybody that has that, please let Terry know as we go forward, because we are going to have to be involved in this. And then obviously get the community very, very much involved in it. Okay, that sounds good. Any
So,
questions,
and Alan,
Terry, on that item?
Alan, I'll just make a point that if you get a good consultant, they're going to hold our hand through it.
Good.
To include the advisory board and the community forums as well.
Perfect. So just not to get into the weeds, but who do we work through with this? Paul, would he become the point person for doing the RFPs or whatever and all of that, or is that HR? Where's that come from? Kathy?
I do it. I get a draft together. I bounce it to Paul. He helps. I will be consulting the director from Upper Arlington. I've looked at their master plan. And before that goes out, it's likely get it to the board to look at it to make sure I haven't left anything out.
Thank you.
The board may want to see.
Okay, very good. Well, that wraps up our old business. We only have one remaining piece of new business. Arts West proposal, and Brandon, your name's attached to that. So take it away if you would, please, sir.
Sure. It'll be really quick. I just wanted to just share. I'm not sure how many people were aware that there was a proposal for Arts West, and so earlier in the fall, AMAC had asked for a charge to find basically form a 501c3 to support Arts West. And so that proposal was presented to AMAC last week. Had some discussion and kind of going around. We're meeting with Terry, I think meeting with the mayor and everything like that. But I'm part of that group as well. I thought it was important that APR was aware of this, just so with how communication goes, we didn't know about this, and then we'd have another meeting. So I wanted to bring everybody in here to see if they had any questions or just comments or anything, but really just wanted to bring it formally to everybody who's here. Yeah.
Brandon, the only question I would have, is there a next meeting set yet for that group?
There is not. So the group, the ad hoc committee that I'm on, we reached out. I think Leslie was going to reach out to Terry. I don't know if that's happened or not, but that was going to happen this week. But the plan is to meet with Terry to kind of go through the proposal and see. There was some discussion with AMAC, about what they liked, didn't like. The mayor was there, so it's kind of in this. We put together what we think makes sense, and now it's getting kind of managed and hashed. And so, but that does affect us here. So it's I know it's Arts West, but it's we're part of that, and so.
Great. And anybody that wants to be brought up to speed on that, the AMAC meetings, like our meetings, are recorded and archived on the city website. So if you'd like to watch any of our previous meetings or this AMAC meeting that Brandon is referencing, you can just go to the website, call it up, and watch it at your leisure.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to see the proposal too, I can send it to you. But just wanted to kind of let you know where we are in that process. So, wherever it ends up, it's not a total shock to everybody that, you've heard about it. So.
Brandon, would you be willing to give us a really brief synopsis of what you're proposing? Are you
sure?
comfortable sharing that now?
Yeah. I mean, at the point right now, the hope was basically to create a management board that would oversee the Arts West with the hope of growing some of the programming, also with a racial equity lens. So there was a lot of discussion about that, how that works, legalities and whatnot. So, but that's the crux of the idea. So there were a few people, with the formation of 501c3, wanted a, friends of that would just be, for either fundraising or a way to collect grants. We took a little bit further and thought a working management board could alleviate some of the problems and whatnot. So we're basically hashing out, what the entities that be to see what makes the most sense. And, haven't had a lot of community input yet. So I want to make it sound like this is a done deal in any sense of the word, but that's kind of where we are right now. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. And you've hit the nail on the head. The communication and input as you go through the process, I think will be very, very valuable. That brings us to the last item on the agenda, and that would be APR department staff report, Terry. And after that, we will be able to adjourn.
All right. I'll try to get through this pretty quickly. As mentioned, the budget, I have been able to view that. I've set a meeting with my staff next Wednesday, 4-hour meeting. It's going to be a working meeting. And we'll go through that line by line through the budget and review a number of other things. I think I mentioned my priorities as the master plan for 2021. Q1, getting the RFP out. And let's see, Arts West update. We've launched the Crafternoon programs. We did that on January 11th, and it runs through March 3rd. We've had success with the program. We've offered it at the community center as well as Arts West, and people are trending towards the community center. The virtual piece has not been so successful, but we're learning. Again, this is all new. So we'll continue to tweak that as we know more, but it's offered at both sites. For the Love of Athens photo contest, that's been completed and will be on display at Arts West February 12th through March 26th. It'll be installed in the gallery space, and we're hoping to install gallery space at the community center, in which case it would rotate to the community center after it's at Arts West. I think at one time, before we painted the facility, we had artwork that Passion Works provided in the facility, and we haven't reinstalled it because we knew we wanted to do something different. And this is part of the different, as well as having conversation with Patty Mitchell about the possibility of a mural at the community center as well. Thinking through that, possibly having that phased over 5 years, because we've got a large canvas there. We've got the gymnasium, we've got the track, we've got the hallway, the entry down by the senior center. So we're committed to getting the art back in the building, and so that's exciting. The gallery the gallery installation, that's much like what's been done at Arts West, the new hanging system downstairs at Arts West. Let's see, third annual cat show will begin soliciting entries later this month with a show planned in April at Arts West, and then travel to Casa Nueva for the month of May with Cinco de Meow event scheduled at Casa on May 5th. Valentine's. All credit to Emily Beveridge on Crafternoons and the Casa de Meow. Valentine's weekend plants and pot sale. That's slated for February 13th and 14th at Arts West. And then we continue to work through new Ethernet port locations and electric work that's going to support the installation of the fiber optic at Arts West. I apologize, but I have not spoke with David Dudding to know exactly where we're at with that. Community Center, our preschool program opened on the 19th. And so what is this, day 4? We've got a new preschool instructor. And right now, Aaron Helms is supporting that until we can get an aide hired. We anticipate our numbers are going to increase with the next session. We're offering dance and fitness class. Fitness center is open. Looking at how we can start opening more of that facility, not necessarily to group rentals, but other activities or possibly pod use. The gymnasium is open by reservation, continues to be open. Pickleball is offered in the space in the gymnasium as well by reservation. Park maintenance, Kevin's been busy. They've repaired the bridge at the Little Fish Spur. Daniel, I don't know if you've had a chance to see that, but we had some slippage and boards and loose screws. We did that internally. We had a quote, I want to say, of $20,000 to make the repair with the original vendor, and they did it, I want to say, right at $2,000. That was one of Kevin's winter project. He wanted to do it internally. Camp Rotan, we've been cleaning up out there, and there's evidence that Daniel's been out there. But we have removed the sheds and cleaned up the parking area with the thought of increasing parking in the area. We've removed some old Scout projects with their blessings to include some of the posts. And we're going to continue on that as a winter project. I believe we have money from the enhancement fund that we'll use to make other improvements, whether it's the cabin, whether it's the water line. I'll be out there with the maintenance supervisor and the mayor next Tuesday to look at that and determine next step and what the mayor would like to see there. As far as personnel, we have our new facility operations manager in place. That's George Nowicki. He started on the 19th, and he will be training for his certified pool operator certification. He starts that training on the 29th. We've got to get that in place. We are reviewing job descriptions for seasonal hire. Those job descriptions for aquatics will be posted the first 2 weeks in February. So I feel like summer's here in that sense. George has some things to learn, but our staff is fully supportive, and we've got people and resources in place to make sure he's successful in getting the certifications and learning all there is to learn about the aquatics facility. Andrew Chickie's going to be instrumental in helping him learn the operations of the pump room, and myself and Aaron will be instrumental. And Aaron will likely have program oversight for pool programs to include swim lessons. Other than that, I think the mayor does have State of the City slated for City Council on Monday, January 25th, and all department heads are presenting for 2 minutes, and I will be presenting my 2 minutes on Monday. Anything else? Any questions?
Questions, anyone for Terry? Anything else for the good of the order this evening? Okay, a couple real quick housekeeping things. This is what I'd like to do this year. We meet the third Thursday of every month at 5:30. We're on the calendar. That's our schedule. My plan, working with Terry, will be to get out a request for agenda items 1 week prior to that on Thursday. Probably in the afternoon, but sometime on Thursday. The request to you to have any items for the agenda submitted by Monday. Then in turn, Terry and I will work on the agenda, like to have the agenda and the minutes from the previous meeting in your hands no later than Tuesday, a full 48 hours before our meeting, so that one, you have an opportunity, or we have an opportunity to review those minutes. And secondly, so that you can look at the agenda items, and if there's any preparation that needs to be made, any research that needs to take place, or any questions that need to be asked, we all have ample time to do that. So that when we roll into this meeting on the third Thursday of every month at 5:30, we are all up to speed, prepared, and ready to go. Today was a little different because we introduced ourselves, and I found out some things today that I didn't know about some of you, which was really good. It really was. It makes it feel more of a team effort. But it would be nice if, we can keep this down to an hour and 15 minutes, but we don't want to speed through things either. We want to have quality time. And speaking of time, and I don't mean to be political in this at all, but in 2012, I secured a little blue ticket, which I have upstairs. I should have brought it to show you, but on the blue ticket, it said that I was lucky enough to have admission to the Athens Recreation Center to hear a speech by then Vice President Joe Biden. I got in, and it was neat, and Joe was Joe, or I should say President Biden was President Biden. But he said one thing that really, really has resonated with me, and if I say it one more time when my wife's in the room, she's liable to throw something at me. But President Biden, then at the time Vice President Biden, was recounting a conversation he had with his father when he was much, much, much younger. And it was a conversation about business. And the senior Mr. Biden said to Vice President Biden, son, show me your budget and I will tell you what you value. Well, time is a budget too. We each have 168 hours in a week. And as we start this school year, as we start this year, as this group, I'd like to say thanks in advance for taking that hour and 15 minutes, that hour and a half, and making that a priority in your budget. It means a lot to me. I'm sure it means a lot to the citizens of Athens that you've made that a priority. So thank you in advance for doing that. I appreciate your service, and I think that will help us be a very, very productive group going forward. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, but I would like to say that I think you're going to be an excellent chair, Alan. And I was in that little room with Vice President Biden too.
Okay, you still have your blue ticket, and thank you for that comment. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?